President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi and First Lady Intisar el-Sisi have welcomed South Korean President Lee Jae-myung and his wife in Cairo with talks covering the full spectrum of bilateral ties. Following their talks at the presidential palace, the two leaders witnessed the signing of a memorandum of understanding on cultural cooperation signed by Egypt's Culture Minister Ahmed Fouad Henno and South Korea's Minister of Culture and Science. They also attended the signing of an MOU on education inked on the Egyptian side by Education Minister Mohammed Abdel Latif. The agreements aim to deepen cultural exchange and support joint programs in schooling and technical education as part of a broader upgrade in Egypt-South Korea's relations. Egypt's Prime Minister Mustafa Madbouli says this November has brought a series of major milestones for Egypt, from the opening of the Grand Egyptian Museum to progress on the Dabaa nuclear plant, which he says will save up to $3 billion a year. Speaking at a news conference, Prime Minister Madbouli said Egypt is turning a new bright page with the start of the Dabaa nuclear project, describing it as the fulfillment of a national dream that has existed since the mid-20th century. He said the plant is expected to save between $2 and $3 billion annually once fully operational, thanks to reduced fuel imports. Madbouli added that major international companies he meets consistently ask for land in the Suez Canal economic zone, reflecting strong investor interest in Egypt's strategic location and infrastructure.